Hello, viewers, it's Josie. Welcome back to my channel where I'm doing my eclectic movie reviews and updates. And the day of recording is February 12th, 2 days before Valentine's Day. So, in honor of that, I'm doing a little Valentine's Day special. I'm going to be reviewing a couple of titles, and then I'm going to discuss my favorite um, fictional favorite couples from 2025 films. um so first I'm going to review some older titles. The first one I'm going to discuss is Bronco Billy from 1980, directed by Clint Eastwood. Billy Bronco, uh uh like that's what they call him, McCoy, played by Clint Eastwood, is the leader of a Western-themed circus performance troupe. He's trying his best to maintain the group even under tough circumstances. Given the decrease of attendances to their shows, the members of the group are unable to be paid by Billy. While stopping at a gas station during touring, Billy comes across a newlywed rich woman named Antoinette Lilly, played by Sandra Locke, who is recently forsaken by her heel husband, played by Jeffrey Lewis. Antoinette is positioned with the role of Billy's new assistant. Unfortunately, a series of unlucky situations take place, and the members of the group deem her as bad luck, quote unquote. Even so, Antoinette embraces this new purpose, and romance forms between her and Billy. It's a sweet, humanistic, feel-good, underseen, and under-discussed gem. The Wild West show costuming is beautifully vibrant. The chemistry between Clint Eastwood and Sandra Locke is surprisingly adorable. In a way, this movie is Clint Eastwood lovingly looking back at his involvement with Western films. And I'd say it's a sincere love letter in that regard. This would make an interesting double feature with George A. Romero's Knight Rider, since they both follow stories of performance troupes that have waning public interest, but still honor the work they've put in through the years. I rented it was a Warner Brothers Blu-ray from the library. This isn't streaming for free, so see if you can get a DVD or Blu-ray from your library. And as I say with all my recommendations that aren't for free on streaming, and even if they are and you have to pay, and if you don't want to pay, and you go to your library and it's not there, request a copy from another library. And this goes for a few other titles I'm going to recommend, but I don't want to get repetitive, so let's move on to the next title. God is Brazilian from 2003, directed by Carlos Diegues. This is not a romance per se, though it is fair to believe that the narrative suggests the possibility between two of our traveling trio of characters. God, played by Antonio Fagundes, I believe that's the actor's name, if I'm pronouncing correctly, makes the bold choice of taking time off. He is bored with trying to answer the demanding prayers of humans. Before doing so, he searches for a saint to take his position while vacationing. He befriends a scheming hustler named Takoa, I believe that's his name, played by Wagner Moura, a young, hot Wagner Moura, and he still is hot, and a woman named Maida, played by Paloma Durante. The movie can certainly be classified as a buddy comedy. There's also not a love triangle per se, but Maida is in fact infatuated with the idea of God, of this. Well, she doesn't know he's God. She's just like, for when she first meets him, she's just so like impressed with his quote unquote magic. And but of course, God is not looking for a romance. By journeying with God, Wagner Moura's character Takoa grows as a person and learns to be more empathetic towards others. and Tekoa and Meta form a connection too. And this film asks a lot of interesting questions about religion that could be answered in several different ways pertaining to individual audience perception. One way of looking at it is that we human beings are God. Although God is presented as someone with comical magic, he still has his limitations. The idea of God being an omnipotent figure is challenged here by the fact that he's willing to put aside his work to begin with. Yes, God's powers do come in handy, but even so, he doesn't solve all the problems with the snap of a finger. That said, the greatest, quote, miracle that God does here is help Tekoa and Meta realize their own resilience. Carlos Diegas accomplishes the difficult task here of handling these scenes in such a light-hearted, playful manner. It's so interesting how this movie came out the same year as Bruce Almighty. Unfortunately, God is Brazilian is not available to stream anywhere, not even to rent or buy. But again, try to request a copy from your library. Um, Next up is a Hungarian film from 2015. I came across this. I was at a library and I found Cauldron Films Blu-ray of this movie. So Liza the Fox Fairy, directed by Karoli Ujmezaros. It's Hungarian. I can't pronounce. The setting is an alternative 1970s Hungary. Our titular character, Liza, played by Monica Balsai, who's married to the director, is a nurse caring for an elderly woman named Marta. Living with her is a mischievous Japanese spirit named Tomitami, played by David Sakurai, who is so hilariously animated here. I love his performance. He is the ghost of a 1950s pop musician, and while Liza goes out to eat on her 30th birthday, Marta is murdered by Tomitami, and a spell is cast by Tomi on Liza, in which any man who is attracted to Liza gets killed. Because Tomi is infatuated with Liza and wants to possess her all to himself. And every time Liza goes on a date, the potential suitor dies under odd, quote, accidental circumstances. Zoltan, the sergeant assistant to Liza's, becomes the Zoltan is a sergeant assigned to Liza's case, and he becomes her apartment flatmate. And they slowly start falling in love, and there comes a point where he's got to watch out. Masterful dark comedy is on full display here, and for such a dark premise, the film manages to be so joyfully whimsical. It also has a really fun soundtrack. I love all the performances from the characters. Monica Balsai is such a treasure here. And as for the actor who plays Zoltan, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Let me look it up briefly. Sorry for this. Liza the Fox Fairy cast. Yeah, it's a really hard name to pronounce, but sometimes Google gives pronunciations. Saw Boluk Bedafazikash. Uh, but yeah, everybody's great here, and this movie it will make your jaw drop with the shocking humor, and it will make you smile with the cuteness. Surprising amount of balanced cuteness, balanced whimsicality. So Liza the Fox Fairy is actually available to watch on Tubi, and as I said, there's Blu-ray from Cauldron Films. The last title I'm going to review as far as like older things that I watched recently before I move on to favorite couples of in 2025 films, is a movie from 2000, which is not only underrated but underseen. I came across this by looking up like films with under like a certain amount of ratings on Letterboxd, and actually I actually have heard of this movie a long time ago because my grandma liked this movie. And it's called Two Family House from 2000, directed by Raymond D. Felita, who also directed City Island. So, Two Family House. The setting is Staten Island in 1956. Italian American Buddy Vassallo, played by Michael Rispoli, uh, is a factory worker and aspiring singer. He set aside these dreams as per an ultimatum from his wife Estelle, and they purchase a two-family house and remodel the ground floor into a community bar. Buddy hopes that he could be a crooner at the bar they establish. When we are first introduced to Buddy, he is a bit of a hustler. He has a history involving himself in schemes. Estelle is very materialistic and is constantly pushing Buddy to be a version of himself that's not the most true to his own personal values and goals. Irish tenants move in, a woman named Mary, played by Kelly MacDonald, and her abusive husband, played by Kevin Conway. Mary gives birth to a baby, and it turns out that Mary's husband is not actually the biological father because the baby is biracial. And after evicting Mary, her husband leaves, and Mary is shortly evicted. But afterwards, he feels remorse, and Buddy feels remorse, and he sets up a living space for Mary as she seeks adoptive parents for her newborn. And then Buddy and Mary start developing a really sweet, genuine connection. And she helps bring out the best version of him, helping him become a more empathetic and compassionate human being. It's such a beautiful, heartwarming story. This should be discussed more when talking about Italian American movie canon. And everybody, Michael Rispoli and Kelly MacDonald give such really outstanding performances. I wish Michael Rispoli had a bigger career after this. I know Kelly MacDonald went on to do a few things, including the voice of Merida in Brave. And she was in Best Picture winner No Country for Old Men. Yeah, and I would love to see some label out there put this out on Blu-ray. I I rented a DVD copy from my local RBC library. Um, See if it's at yours. If not, you could get an interloan, as I said. I can. I would. This would be a great release from Kino, because like sometimes Kino puts out like these uh these kinds of movies of this kind of tone or genre, if you will. But yeah, more people should really see this because it's so heartfelt and so um emotionally resonant, um and 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 balanced with good humor too. So yeah, that's what I watched in January. And that's like what romantic things that that I watched in January and February of 2026. Now let's get to favorite couples in 2025 films. Now, before I get into my official list, two things. One, I'm going to talk about headcanon couples, meaning like people who aren't like necessarily together, but aren't together, but like I like to picture them together, if that makes sense. Um, First one being Mary Partington and James Whittaker, Thomasin Mackenzie and Matthew Beard's characters in The Testament of Anne Lee. Mary Partington and James Whittaker were the names of actual Shakers. These people were not married, at least from what I know, but they were, and their names are used fictitiously in this film, of course. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, online that is, Mona Fastfold was asked about how much of the story was fact and how much was fiction, and she said, it's interesting because so many of the scenes are based on or inspired by anecdotes and things told about her. This is also why we have this kind of unreliable narrator who says it could have happened this way or it could have happened that way. But I like to imagine these two versions of these characters together, regardless. And then now it's interesting. The guy here is not on screen. For the next two people I'm mentioning, the guy is not on screen that much, but he had such a great presence that, was memed. And that is Willa and Bluto, one of Willa's friends, in one battle after another. I like to pretend that they embody the classic friends to lovers trope. Her dad is like, whatever, when he comes to like get her in the car with their friends to go to the dance. He says to her, whatever you do to her, I'm going to do to you. Although her dad says that, he'll end up liking him. I like to imagine Willa and her friends being in a school play and Bob crying in the audience, especially if he's high. Sensei Sergio would also be in the audience. Imagine there would be karate shows too. And to that point, the back to what I was saying, I think it's awesome that that Bluto didn't snitch on Willa like another friend of hers. But moving on to the actual list of favorite couples in 2025 movies. Now there were two cuts I made. I not because I don't like them, but because I wanted to go a little less obvious, and that's Chris Evans and Dakota Johnson, The Materialist, and Nick and Judy in Zootopia 2. I had to cut, but because I wanted to go a little less obvious. But next, here's getting to the visual list. So, Arj and Elena, Kiki Palmer's character, and of course Aziz Ansari's character in Good Fortune. Kiki Palmer's character helps Aziz Ansari's character realize that what he was wanting was not the riches, but rather meaningful and loving connections and a life of stability. There's a scene where Arj, as a rich guy, is having a big party extravaganza, and he tells Elena that she was the only one he wanted to talk to at the party. There's an age-old saying that money cannot buy love and happiness. She, Keanu Reeves, and Seth Rogen all help Arj realize, Aziz Ansari's character realize this. And his relationship with these characters, including Elena, also help him realize that blue-collar work is not something to be ashamed of. In fact, it's something that's equally worth celebrating. Next up is Robert and Felicity in Train Dreams. Now, I'm going to get into some spoilers for like a second, so maybe fast forward this like a few seconds, but I'll give hand signals for when I'm talking spoilers, and then when I'm done talking about spoilers, in case you haven't seen Train Dreams yet. Although, she dies almost halfway through, you feel her presence as sort of a spiritual guide for Joel Edgerton's character. Um, uh, that's Felicity, I mean, Robert and Felicity, is her name, is her name Felicity? Oh my god, I made such a boo-boo with the Felicity Jones Train's character. Gladys. Oh my god. I'm so sorry. I wrote I wrote Felicity instead of Gladys. What a dope. But, we all make mistakes. So funny, there was another Gladys on screen this year besides Aunt Gladys in Weapons, but moving forward, uh Shufen and Johnny and Left-Handed Girl. Um a movie that I thought was sadly overlooked, despite it being on Netflix. I just the way that she Johnny's character uh supports Shu Fen, played by Janelle Tsai, as she raises the two girls while struggling to keep the restaurant afloat is beautiful. And the actor who plays Johnny is cast Brando Huang. It's spelled Huang. Yeah, I really liked both of them in Left-Handed Girl. And then next up is Liesel and Bjorn in the Phoenician Scheme, Michael Cera and Mia Threepleton's character. Michael Cera is so perfect as Bjorn. It being a Wes Anderson movie, the humor is obviously deadpanned, and both Michael Cera and Mia Threepleton's characters talk such. However, there's a contrast between the tones of their deadpan demeanors. Although Michael Cera's character speaks with a sort of cartoonish Michael Cera's character speaks with sort of a cartoonish dreamer whimsy, whereas Mia Threepleton's character speaks with cynical bluntness, and it's such a great balance. Next up, Stack and Mary and Smoke and Annie and Sinners. Both partners match each other's energy. Mary matches Stack's more chaotic charisma, while Annie matches Smoke's more stoic nature. I love how Haley Steinfeld's character Mary does not fit the traditional sophisticated period piece woman archetype, if that makes sense. She's got a potty mouth, and I love the delivery of certain words I don't want to say on camera right now. I love how Annie, Wumni Musaku's character, is a moral anchor to Smoke / Elijah, his real name. And really, in the film overall, she gives such a fantastic performance, and I'm so glad she's nominated for an Oscar. Next up is Ali and Gold, the married couple in It Was Just an Accident, or the couple about to be married. Kudos to them for making it through the ride. And then Porky and Petunia in The Day the Earth Blew Up, the Looney Tunes movie. And Petunia really plays such a huge part in Porky and Daffy's journey of growing up and overcoming obstacles. And next, I'm going to talk about Marty and Rachel and Marty Supreme. Timothy Chalamet and Odessa Zion's characters. Now, before I go into my thoughts on them, I just I know that there was some controversy involving Josh Safdie, and with and the Safdie brothers, he and his brother Benny, with information about what happened on the set of Good Time. I don't want to go into that deeply. It's not really my business. I don't really talk about those kinds of things on this channel. I try to avoid that stuff as much as I can. But I will say that again, this situation where I'm separating the art from the artist and what happened, if true, is disgusting, and I hope justice. I intend justice for the victim. Uh and I hope that that Josh and Benny take responsibility for what happened on set. Uh that's really all I want to say. Uh But moving forward, what makes Marty and Rachel so perfect for each other in Marty Supreme is that they're both conniving hustlers. I think Marty Supreme is a great character study of an individual who presents ultimate um, confidence and bravado and as a front for what actually is deep insecurity and is forced to learn humility and grow up. Of course, I'm in no way calling Marty Mauser a saint, but I don't think he's as unlikable as some say. Honestly, there are some other characters in the movie who are just as much, if not more, unlikable than he is. Abel Ferrara is a total wacko. Odessa Zion's character Rachel has a chud husband. Kevin O'Leary plays himself. And certainly, Marty Mauser makes absolutely horrible decisions. In spite of getting caught up with the gambling and greed, I do believe that he did care about the dog, all things considered. And I do believe he genuinely cares about Rachel. After all, they've been best friends since childhood. Although the black eye on Rachel turned out to be makeup, he shows care by standing up for her in front of her husband. Although the black eye on Rachel was makeup, again, I don't doubt her husband was abusive. Part of me wonders, at least in my headcanon, if her husband could have given her a partial black eye, but she could have added some makeup to milk it up to make it slightly worse. Although Marty doesn't stay with Rachel for the full surgery after getting shot, he at least makes an effort to make sure that she's okay before he leaves to Japan. And when he takes at the end, he takes responsibility of the fatherhood role, just juxtaposing his paternal denial earlier in the film. Him crying upon seeing his newborn son with tears of joy shows that he's open to a new chapter in his life that involves something beyond him. Yes, he remains a broken individual. Nevertheless, because the film ends on a note that suggests the possibility of Marty getting his life together, it is fair to question if there is a good guy buried deep within him somewhere. Now, and Rachel tagging along with him, his scheming is the thing that helps Marty reach this point in life. Now, it is fair to question if he'll end up screwing up again. I do think that's fair, and that's up to the audience. Now, it's interesting. The film was originally supposed to end with a montage of Marty and he and Rachel like continuing a family and him becoming a successful businessman, getting bit by a vampire. Josh Safdie said that although when getting bit by a vampire, I believe at a Tears for Fears concert, with Everybody Rules the World playing. Now, what's interesting is that Josh Safdie said that although this stuff was not that at least the montage of him living a stable life isn't shown in the movie, I believe he still believes that those events still take place. I don't know about the vampire part, but given that he's as the writer, along with Ronald Bronstein, who's the secret weapon of the Safdies, I do believe I do trust and believe what they say here. and again, back to what I said earlier, I'm separate the art from the artist, and I hope responsibility is taken and justice is served. But moving on to more of my list, I want to mention George and Catherine Woodhouse, Michael Fassbender and Kate Blanchett's characters in Black Bag. The way they remain devoted through it all, even with suspicion, is so sexy and tender. And now these two are sort of this is a tie for my number one, because they're because they look alike, and they're kind of similar vibe wise. Agnes and Evan Peterson in Sentimental Value. Agnes, Inga Ibsdottir Lilius's character. I love how normal they are. They're so cute with their son Eric. Those are dream marriage and family goals right there. Okay, I have a funny theory. Inga Ibsdottir Lilius's character and her husband actually do have a DVD player and watch movies often, but hide it. For those of you who haven't seen Sentimental Value, there's a scene where Stellan Skarsgård's character gives gives her son on his 9th birthday a DVDs of The Piano Teacher and Irreversible, and then Inga Ibsdottir Lilius's character Agnes says, "Thank you, but we don't have a DVD player." So I have a theory about that. Inga's character and her husband actually do have a player, and they watch movies often, but they hide it because she wants to avoid cinematic discourse with her dad, given the trauma of him abandoning her. And when her husband says, "I hardly watch films anymore," that is another cover-up to avoid talking about movies with Gustav. But yeah, I know that the film isn't about their relationship, but whenever they're on screen together, it's so cute. And because she's the heart and moral anchor of the movie, and represents stability. And then next up is Patrick and Danielle, the parents in Little Amelie. I mentioned this in my review of Little Amelie. I love how they do everything they can to keep the family afloat in transition. And yeah, Inga's character and Andrew, the actor who plays Evan in Sentimental Value, his name is Andreas Stoltenberg Grenerd. Granerud. I might be mispronouncing, but the parents in Little Amelie sort of resemble them and have similar vibes. And both mothers are practical women, and yeah, I love them so much. They have a beautiful relationship. Both of these couples, marriage and family goals. So yeah, that wraps up my Valentine's Day special. I hope you enjoyed and have a happy Valentine's Day, whether you're single or partnered. Or I hope you, and if you're, and us girls, let's have a great Galentine's Day. But whatever you do, I hope it's a special day, or a good normal average day, if that's fitting for you. But yeah, thank you for watching. Goodbye for now.